Hello. Welcome to Lost in Records Podcast.
So this show, we're gonna interview someone special. I'm gonna be interviewing Brian Morgante. Honestly, don't know how to say his last name. I did a speak function on my MacBook, and it told me Morgante. I'm just gonna go with that. But Brian runs Flesh and Bone Designs. He used to run Flesh and Bone Records, which was a record label, but he gave that up and gave it to someone else because he didn't have time. And we'll talk about that more in the interview. But yeah, he's a graphic designer for Flesh and Bone Designs. He does artwork for a lot of people. He does artwork for bigger bands, smaller bands. He does a lot of stuff. All right, so we're talking to Brian. How do you say your last name? Is it
Morgante?
It is Morgante. Okay. I literally was like, I've always seen your name, but I never
Yeah.
like I could read it, but I'm like, I never like sounded it out. I was like Morgan. And I like did the speak function on my laptop where it's all Morgante. I was like, okay, Morgante. Like Morgante.
A lot of people say Morgante or Morgante, and it's Morgante.
I'll just say Martinez.
There we go. Perfect. Nailed it.
Brian Martinez. All right, so we're talking to Brian Martinez. Thanks for doing this. Let's see. Let's just jump right into it. Talking about design stuff. What's funny is that at one point I noticed you'd always post designs and stuff like on your Facebook or the design Facebook, and at one point I saw a shirt design that you said either it was like a throwaway design you did for somebody and then they didn't want it, so you're like, hey, who wants this design? And it was a band, Night Riots.
Yeah,
and I didn't know if you actually had direct like contact with them doing design stuff, because like that band, they're from my town.
Oh, really?
Which I found that hilarious when I saw that. I was like, well, they're not. Well, they're from the town next to mine, which is a 4-mile drive. They're from Templeton, California. But I just remember that I'm all, holy shit, he's doing Night Riots. And then there was the time where you were doing something. You were talking something about the band Lakes.
Yeah,
they used to be called Lakes. Now they're Eager Seas.
Yeah.
And those are some of my buddies. And I was like, how the fuck does he know these people? And they're like, oh, yeah, he does design. That was before I really talked to you a lot.
Yeah.
But,
well,
yeah,
to answer both of that, with Night Riots, that was, I've never been in direct connection with them, but I worked with a company that was doing merch with them called Merchline out of Florida. Okay. When I was living in Florida, I got connected to what those folks were doing. They're doing really incredible stuff down there. Work with a lot of really cool clients, a lot of like really diverse stuff. And I was just kind of brought on as one of their freelancer go-tos. Mm-hmm. So when they bring in new clients to their rosters, or they have people hitting them up to design merch, the call goes out to a bunch of different designers, and whoever they see fit, they get the jobs. And one of those came in for Night Riots, and I was asked to design a bunch of assets for around Warped Tour of last year, I think it was. And
I think it was
maybe 2 years ago.
I think it was the year before, not last year.
But I did like 11 designs for them or something, and I think they only ended up buying like 1 or 2 of them. Really? But it was cool to have the opportunity to do that. And I know one of them for sure got printed, maybe 2. I don't know. Some of it just never gets back to me. But that's always weird. You're like going through a middleman of like their management and then the merch company. So like very, very separated in that regard. But I did get to design some stuff for them, so that was pretty cool.
That's cool. Like you got picked up like 1 or 2. I did like 11, which I kind of feel like that's shitty that they're just like, here, do all this work, and then we're only gonna pay you for like. No, that one.
That's just the name of the game, especially with music and merch. It's all about just going fast and giving people options. And, when I say doing 11 designs, it was doing things that were all, in the same realm, or doing little changes. Yeah. It wasn't like, huge time commitments. And again, all of those throwaway designs end up going to other people. When I have leftover designs from bigger projects like that, I always offer them up for discounts to other bands, record labels and stuff. And I've sold a ton of those to people like you, the other label friends and everything that always want the good. It's like my little design yard sales that I like to have. But and then the other thing with Lakes, I grew up like in a very sheltered. I come from like a Pentecostal Christian background. Like I was raised in the church, like hardcore, all that. So like I wasn't allowed to listen to like the devil's music, and wasn't allowed to listen to the radio. And very early on, internet 1.0 days, we're talking like dial up 97, 98.
AOL.
Yeah, you know it.
I still have some of those discs.
Dude, my first screen name was BMXPX Punk. Because I loved MXPX because they were the greatest Christian punk band ever, right?
Well, they're my buddy. I have a couple friends that literally, both of the dudes in my other band, Blissed Out, they both have MXPX tattoos. The one has the running guy. He has the whole tattoo on his leg, and then the other one just has the head with the spike.
Poconacha, man, Poconacha.
But
punk.
it's funny though. I don't know if you know, but Lake's Seth. Buddy Seth, who's a singer, he was ghost guitar in MXPX. He would tour with them. That's how.
Yeah, that's kind of where I discovered them, because back in those days, it was just left up to me and my own devices to find out what I was actually allowed to listen to, what mom would be like, okay, this is cool. So through scouring the internet back in the day and getting involved with things like Tooth and Nail Records, Solid State Records.
Dude, that was my jam back in the day. Tooth and Nail.
Screaming Giant Records, they were out in California, and another one out there was called Betty Rocket Records.
Yeah, Betty Rocket.
Yeah, Betty Rocket was something that I really, really enjoyed, and getting into bands like Watashi Wa, that was my introduction to someone like Seth, and from a very early age, like 12 years old, 13 years old, being like, oh my God, this is amazing, and just getting stoked on all the other bands on Betty Rocket, and then when Watashi Wa was able to bump up to Tooth and Nail, and then they changed their name to Eager Seas, and then to Lakes, and then back to Eager Seas. Like, I've always followed them, always really enjoyed the music Seth has put out. Yeah. And that was weird, too, because some of our friends in Florida knew Seth, and it's just, I don't know, just very weird little connections everywhere. It's crazy.
Isn't that fun? Dude, the world's a small place.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But yeah, no, yeah, I remember Watashi Wa. I don't know. I was too young when they played around here. They're all from the town I live in. Like Watashi Wa. I remember it wasn't so much they went to Tooth and Nail. Tooth and Nail bought out like all the bands from Betty Rock.
Yeah.
They like literally like just took on all those bands because that label just like was like fuck it, collapsed. So they took them all in. But anyways, let's see, other questions. I wrote down a couple questions just in case I forget. What software do you usually do or use when you're like editing? I'm assuming you use Photoshop. Do you ever use I've never used Illustrator. How do you use Illustrator? Do you use that?
A little bit.
Is that for websites or what is?
No, that's good for like doing vector stuff. But yeah, I mean, I kind of use all of it.
I don't know these terms. What is a vector?
Oh, you don't even got to worry about getting into the specifics of all that nonsense. That's just a bunch of boring stuff. But yeah, I mean, I use Photoshop. I use Illustrator. I use a lot of the weird stuff too. I really like to use the open source programs like GIMP and Paint.net. Yeah. They have the worst names, but like the way that you can get plugins and stuff for those programs, I find it a lot of fun because it utilizes a lot of old technology and a lot of weird things that a lot of people have kind of forget. Like lately, I've been doing a lot more like glitchy type stuff, a lot more abstract type stuff, and I'm able to use these plugins that are kind of like prehistoric technology for programs like Paint.net that actually end up taking on a life of their own and having a lot of fun to bring a whole kind of new flavor into something that's really up to date. So mixing the use of all the programs is fun. Just kind of depends on the job and the specific, things that you're asked to do, things you're asked to create. So it's always fun to go back and forth and kind of keep it mixed up all the time and try something new.
No, it's cool. Yeah, I remember trying to figure out how to like make a glitch photo, and I remember seeing what was it? Some like tutorial saying that you literally just go into the the code of like an image and you like delete some stuff, and then when you preview it you took out parts of it so it gets all fucked up and glitchy looking. I never figured it out, but I always wanted to try that.
Yeah, that's definitely one way to do things. Yeah, you can easily glitch out photos in that regard. Yeah, you can just kind of experiment with deleting little bits of the binary language, I guess you would say, and every single time it'll kind of come out different and real kind of janky looking. That's always fun.
So, what are some of the, I guess in your opinion, what would be like some of the biggest bands that you've actually done design? Because I've seen you've done some stuff for bigger bands. I don't know if you did those directly with them or if it was the same thing where someone hired you to like make a bunch of designs. But I remember like one of the biggest ones I saw you did, I think you did some shit for like Anberlin on their tour. Yeah. Which Lakes toured with them on their last tour. I remember that.
I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of really different artists, which has been cool. Some of them have been direct. Some of them have been through third-party things. So, I mean, either way, it still has to get approved to them. So you're working directly with them in some regard. Yeah. But, some of the ones I've been most excited about, definitely As Cities Burn. They were always one of my favorite bands when I was growing up.
I got into them a little bit. My one friend showed me them, and I was like, that one album with like
Come Now Sleep.
I think it's their second one. It's got that song Contact on it.
Yeah, that's Come Now Sleep.
Yeah, that album's good.
That is easily one of my top 5 albums of all time, and to have the opportunity to work with them, I did a whole bunch of merch for their recent Son, I Love You at Your Darkest 10-year anniversary tour. Yeah. I did some merch for their reunion tour before that as well. That was on the Under Oath farewell tour. So now
Under Oath
was
is
really
back.
Cool. I know, right? It's
dude, I've just been waiting. Like, I see all these bands coming back. I'm like, all right, this band's probably going to come back. And then it's like,
they're all
yep, Under Oath's back. Okay. I mean, I never... At a certain point with Under Oath, I liked them up to... I remember Define the Great Line was the last album I got, and then I was just like, and I just kind of like got over them. They just started sounding super... I don't know. They just super just generic, and I was like, all right. And I still love them, though, but I can't listen to that new Under Oath at all.
I got to work with a lot of those bands that I grew up listening to because a couple of the guys from Under Oath actually run merch line down there in Florida.
Oh, really?
It's like their thing. So they worked with these bands like As Cities Burn, Erie, Anberlin that they had always been friends with and toured with back in the day. So to get the opportunity to tour with them, Haste the Day, that was always neat because I'm like, this is like 16-year-old Brian's dream come true type stuff.
God. When you were 16, thinking that you'd be doing designs for Haste the Day,
I know, right? It's
like
funny.
At that time, you're like, holy shit! I remember I saw Haste the Day in the city next to where I live. This is literally right before the singer left. I got to see them, like the original lineup.
Nice.
And I remember seeing the drummer, and like he's a good drummer, but I just remember seeing him. He literally looked like he was 40 something, and he was bald. Like he had the side hair going. He was bald. Like he was so old looking. And I remember sitting there like, what the fuck? He looks like my uncle. It's like,
dude,
playing
that
drums.
happens to all of us, right?
I know. I mean, I'm starting to go bald too. You can't really tell on the camera, but I should stop wearing hats all the time.
No. But those were some of like, my favorites from growing up. But like I got to do a shirt for Father John Misty.
I was just about to ask. I saw that. Was that a direct contact with him?
That was through merch company as well. But most things with bands end up through merch companies. But that was something that like I really geeked out about because I Love You, Honey Bear was a favorite of mine when that came out. I still listen to that all the time, and I love Father John Misty.
I honestly I've never even listened to it. I watched a video where he did it. He did a cover of like a Taylor Swift song on like I saw it online. I watched that. I've been meaning to like listen to like
I Love You Honey Bear is like a perfect album. And then I got to do a poster for David Bazan, which I like super geeked out about. I've always been a huge Pedro the Lion fan. Always have loved everything David Bazan did. So to be able to do a poster for him, it was neat. And then like the poster was done in a way. It was like this like cabin outdoorsy scene, and then we did a glow in the dark layer where at night or in the dark it came out where like there was all stars in the sky and the cabin windows lit up, and it just kind of looked like the cabin at night, which was really neat. And I guess through the company who screen printed them and then we're selling them at the specific shows, they said like Bazan took some to frame and hang up in his children's room. Oh wow! So like because he liked the design so much. So to think that like this artist that I've always respected, always admired, always looked up to, has
putting
like,
your freaking design in his fucking house. That's ridiculous.
And like so many of the posters and the artwork that have been done for Bazan over the years has been like absolutely amazing. Some of my favorite stuff in the world, and to think something like that happened, I mean, it was just like I was doing cartwheels. I was so excited.
Dude, that's freaking sick though.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's see. I wrote this down. What have you ever had or no, who no, you don't have to name a name or anything, but like what was the time where you had like the most like annoying client or customer who like you just wanted to fucking punch, but you had to be super nice still, and you had to sit there and go, all right, I'll edit this for the 40th time, or like is there a story? Do you have a story of like the worst design job you've ever got? I'm sure you got one, at least one.
Wow. You don't
have to name names.
Several. The good thing though, there are a lot of designers that have had absolute horror stories, and my heart goes out to them because that stuff is just nonsense, especially when you get into more corporate type things and working with legitimate organizations that have a ton of middlemen and stuff. I mean, those projects can turn into the thing of nightmares. But for the most part, I've been at this like 5 years now, and I've worked with like literally thousands of different clients, and out of all of those different people, different walks of life, there's only ever been maybe like 10 of them that have turned into nightmare situations or things where like I have to walk away or they have to walk away.
Did you end up walking away from any of those?
There's been a couple. There's been a couple emails that I've gotten where I've sort of like tilted my head, where I'm just like, I'm not doing, where stuff that'll be like, they'll ask for things that they don't even realize are maybe offensive or racist.
Reminds me of the story. That band Amir, the singer guy?
Yeah.
The singer from Amir had his own clothing line, and he had a shirt with like the fucking Twin Towers like on fire.
Oh my God.
And he was selling, I don't know what it said, but it was like super offensive, and his whole attitude was just like, fuck everybody. This is sick, blah, blah, blah. And he literally just got like so much shit for that. I think he ended up having to pull those shirts off.
That was their thing too. I remember even Amir having a shirt that was like, ask your girl what my dick tastes like or something.
That's
and I'm like,
one of the lyrics in one of their songs.
Yeah, but I'm just like, who's the designer that was even like, yep, I'm just gonna do this. Like sometimes things shouldn't go out into the world, and it's things like that. But yeah, there's been a couple times where I've had some nightmare situations. Clients that don't pay, refuse to pay, have you do a design and disappear, even though you send them 40 emails over the span of 6 months. Like, hey, can I get my like $50, please?
Have you ever had? I've literally had this thought. I'm not doing it, but like I had the thought in my head where I asked you to do a design, and like you sent me on like Facebook just like a shitty quality, like, here, this is what it looked like. And I'm like, if I was a dick, I could just take that and like tell you to fuck off and just take that and use it. And you'd be like, true. Dude. But I'm like, you have you ever had anyone do that before?
No,
like you were showing them drafts and then they just didn't get back to you and then ended up using it?
No, I've never had that. I've always covered my tracks. I learned very early on. There's a couple different times where I put a lot of work into something and then someone would just be like, oh, we don't really like it, and then disappear. It wasn't like we can revise it or I'll pay you for your time. So, you know, when you're working with friends, at least, that usually always goes well, you know, and people are going to pay you after the fact or during, doesn't really matter. But when I'm working with people I don't know or new clients or people that just email me, I always ask for at least half up front. So they're already invested. And that alone makes people not really want to walk away. But there's been even a couple times where people have, you know, given me like the half upfront deposit. We've worked on things, we've revised a bunch of things, and then they're like, "Well, it's not really what we want. So if you could send that back, that would be great." And I'm like, "No, that's not how it works. Like, you gotta at least pay me for the time, you know?"
Yeah, you're like, "Fuck off! I got half of it." And like, all right, you don't want to design?
Exactly. Yeah. No, so I mean, you know, everyone deals with nightmare clients, but I've been very lucky in the sense of surrounding myself with people that aren't lunatics, I guess, and just, you know, always working with people that have been very kind, very responsive, very you know, just deliberate in wanting to actually work with me, not just feeling something out. And you know how to sniff out the mouth breathers and avoid those jobs at all costs. But it's okay. I don't have any horror stories of like someone trying to burn my house down because they didn't get their logo in
No,
time.
I didn't mean like that. I meant, well, I guess not horror stories, but just like examples of like what people would do. I mean, which you already kind of explained some of it. But
I mean, people ask you to make garbage designs all the time, and there's always the struggle of wanting to be like, listen, your ideas are trash.
And let me do something. And then they'll go, fuck you.
Yeah.
What?
Please.
I want a swastika on top of Hillary Clinton's face, and it's going to say, vote Trump.
Yeah. There's one band that comes to mind. I won't name them, but they had one time sent me over this you know, explanation for a design they wanted, and it was very detailed, very concise. Like, basically we were going to get it the first round because they knew exactly what they wanted. So I put this design together, I give them like 100% exactly what they want, and then you know, they come back like not even an hour later, and a revision process starts where they all of a sudden have gotten the other band members involved, and now they want to piece something together. And before we knew it, we were 11 revisions in, and there wasn't one element from the original design and the original concept that they laid out that was in the final design that they ended up paying for. Well, and you're like, how can you be like, you know, this bad at communicating with your band members of like, literally just like sit down for 10 minutes and even get like the vaguest idea of what everyone's into, and you know, and then
that's why you don't ask everyone. I mean, you could go either route. You could be like, one or two of the members in the band be like, we're making the decision, and the other ones are usually like, oh, okay, cool, or like they all have a say. But when you come to like someone to do a design, one of you talk to them and explain it. You know, it's like, hey, so what do you want? I want this. And then 5 other guys like, what if we like take this off? And then like, you're just going to sit there for like, okay, like 2 months later. All right.
Exactly.
40 revisions in. Does this look cool? Like, all right, fuck.
Oh yeah, that stuff is always fun. But yeah, I've kept that to a minimum, but I always send over like big questionnaires before we even start projects, and a lot of times that weeds out those complications, because then they're like, oh, I actually have to communicate with my bandmates, or you know, communicate with who else I'm working with, and figure out what it is we're gonna do here. But yeah, so we try to keep that to a minimum here.
That's good. So what kind of bands have you been into lately, or like what have you been listening to a lot that you're really into right now?
Oh boy, lately.
I mean, there's so much, dude. Fuck. I go on Facebook and I look up some links, and I'm just like, there's 10 bands I just found out about in one day. I'm like, fuck.
Yeah,
like,
that's true. I'm always digging real hard. I know that there's a band that I had always really enjoyed since they came out called So Long Forgotten. They're kind of along the realm of bands like Me Without You, As Cities Burn, that type of mix. And they came out with an album that was really, really incredible, maybe like 2010, and then they just kind of went quiet. And then just earlier this year, they announced like, hey, we're finally gonna like close this chapter of our lives. We're gonna be done as a band, but we recorded a whole album as like a farewell, and they just put that up, and it's super incredible. Been really enjoying that. What else have I been enjoying lately?
You've been listening to that new Pup record at all? You know the band Pup?
No. I've never gotten into them. I see.
Really? Oh shit! I literally I've been like super into this band the last like month. I found a song of theirs on like Audio Tree. They did it. It's off their new album that just came out, and I literally looked up their old album, and I've been listening to that, and I was like, this is a great album. So I haven't even listened to the whole new album yet, but because it just came out. But actually, in the beginning of this podcast, I played some of the Pup song, and
that's cool.
like you know, for the intros and stuff.
Yeah. Man, what else?
Yeah, you need to listen to them. They're fucking
for
tight.
Sure. I've really been enjoying Grouper lately. I don't know if you're familiar with
Grouper. I've heard that. Groupon? Like that one?
Yes, it's the music of Grouper. No. Grouper is just like really chill, kind of fuzzed out ambient type stuff. Some of it's instrumental, some of it's not. But it's this one woman, her name's Liz, I think up in Portland, and she just had for years and years has just made these incredible kind of ambient albums that are always really good to work to. I've really enjoyed the new David Bazan album, Blanco. That is really good. There's a band down in Florida that I really liked called Alexander and the Grapes. When I lived down there, found
Grapes.
Alexander and the Grapes. They're kind of like a grungy type band. It's like kind of the grunge revival type stuff mixed with almost like Manchester Orchestra, Pedro the Lion. Okay. So it's like a good little eclectic mix. They just came out with a new album called Hyper Self that I've really been enjoying. But yeah, I mean, I'm always kind of into a zillion different things and always really enjoying like the back catalog of everything I've always enjoyed. Like as a music collector and as a music, fan, I've always been an archivist. So I really, I never am just like on to the next thing and forget about everything beforehand. I'm always kind of trying to enjoy as much as I possibly can from now and from growing up, and, not for nostalgia's sake, but like just everything that I've always enjoyed through and through.
Yeah, for sure. I guess that would lead into my next question. Would be, what have you bought any new records lately, or like what is your favorite record that you have? I mean, that's probably hard to. I mean, I couldn't do that, but I thought it'd be a funny question. Like, what's your favorite record that you actually own? Like your favorite vinyl record, or what was a story of like, when you really wanted this record and you were randomly in a shop and you found it. Like that's how I was in New York, and I was hitting a couple record stores in like Greenwich Village, and I was looking all over the place. I was looking for this one record, but then I hit like 6 different record stores. Like that's why I love New York. I literally was in a mile radius. There were 6 different record stores, and I hit this, and I found the record I've been looking for. It's the self-titled Third Eye Blind vinyl. Nice. I found it at a record store and I bought it. It was $50, and I was like, I usually don't spend that much on records, but it's like a double LP, so I was like, fuck it, I bought that. But like that was a story I remember. Like, do you have any stories like that?
Oh man, I have a zillion stories like that. I'm a big music collector. My collection's up to like 1,300 albums.
Oh my
or something.
god! Holy shit!
At this point,
I have like 500.
Yeah, that's between like all my records, all my CDs, all my tapes. I just kind of collect as much as I possibly can. What's that?
I'm showing, if you can't see it, but I'm showing Brian. This is the new Into It Over It album.
Oh, nice.
Standards. I bought this.
Very cool.
A little bit ago. Yeah, I got my whole record shelf is right next to me.
Nice.
I sleep next to it and I cuddle with my record. No,
I have in the apartment we live in now. I have an entire record room. That's sick. My girlfriend lined the whole carpet with faux bear fur. and I have like a nice lounge chair and like, you know, all my records and all my listening station. It's like something out of like a 1970s movie or something. It's awesome.
Sick.
I really love it.
You need one of the little globes that open up and you got liquor and you can pour a little cocktail and then you got your cigar and you just fucking kick back.
Yeah, I'm have you ever seen that movie Ghost World?
Ghost World, is that the one with Steve Buscemi's in it?
Yeah. I'm basically his character. I'm basically Seymour at this point, where it's like, well, I've stripped my collection down to the bare essentials of 1,500 LPs, you know. But yeah, I mean, there's a zillion times I've gone into record stores and found little gems. But I mean, like I said, I'm an archivist, so my collection has followed my story of getting into music from a very early age, and being able to find and collect everything that's always been important to me, every aspect of life, whether it's something I still enjoy or not. I have always wanted it represented, again, not for like a nostalgia sake, but just for, you know, so I can always look back and be like, this is the catalog that like shaped me into the person I am today.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And you know, some of that has been, you know, some of the things I've geeked out about most is even just like finding CDs at thrift stores, where I'm like, you know,
oh, dude, for sure,
like bands like Officer Negative and stuff that, you know, these are like obscure Christian punk bands that like even got me remotely interested in the music. Bands like Officer Negative, Head Noise, The Remnants, Combat Junkies, The Deadline, Squad 5-0, all these old bands like that, 121. Being able to like scour the bowels of the internet to find some random person that still has one of these things from like 1996 or something, trying to find these rare 7-inches, and so that's always a fun scavenger hunt. I've collected almost everything there is from like that realm of bands, and there's only a couple like little holy grails I'm still looking for, but I mean, I've had a lot of good stuff come my way. I remember one day one of my holy grails was trying to find Sigur Rós Talk before they repressed it, and there was I was always like on eBay every day. You know, I had like a whole list of searches that I would go through every day on eBay trying to find things, and one day, you know, that was at the point when they were going for no less than like $250-$300.
Oh god!
And,
I've seen there's a couple records I wanted. I have this one record. They repressed it. Not the last record store day, but the one before. It's an album from Ryan Adams. It's like his first big album. It's called Heartbreaker. Mm-hmm. I've been waiting. I literally saw it on like Discogs or some other, like eBay. It's like $250. I'm like, I'm not paying $250. And I waited till they repressed it, and I paid $25. I'm like, okay. I'm not that much of a vinyl nerd. Like I'm obsessed with collecting records, but you know, I'm a realist at heart. Sure. So I'm like, do I really need the second? Wasn't even the first press. It was like the third press. And I'm like,
of course.
No, I'm good. I'll just get the new one. Fuck it.
Yeah. But yeah, so there was one day that record had gone up. It had only been up for like 4 minutes or something, and someone had listed it, buy it now, $60. And I was like, there's no way. So I look at the description, and it says like everything plays fine, but like the one side of it has like some light surface noise. And the more that they described it, it literally just sounded like the record needed cleaned.
Shit. And you're like, dude, I'll take it, I guess.
Yeah, they thought it was scratched, but all it was is that it needed cleaned. Dirty. So I immediately bought it, got it home, cleaned it up. Sure enough, was totally fine, and got like this amazing copy of like a really rare record at an amazing price. But that was a favorite. There was another time where there was this guy who was probably in his 50s or something, that had said he found a whole bunch of old Tooth and Nail vinyl from the 90s in his garage that he had forgot about, that he had ordered back in like his 30s. And he had a bunch of stuff. He was like, whoever wants it, just like let me know and I'll send it to you. And he had a copy of Starflyer 59's Gold, which is like a $200-$300 record. He had Pedro the Lion's whole EP, the 10-inch, which is like $150. He had a bunch of other really random stuff. And I was like, man, these are like literally all holy grails on my list. So I just like immediately get at him, and I'm just like, hey, I will take all these records. Like, how much for them? And he's like, well, how about like the 12 inches for like $8? And
You're all, oh fuck, that's pricey, man.
Yeah, and the 7 inches for like $3. I was like, I think I can do that. He literally sent them to me in a Domino's pizza box. And I couldn't believe that they even got here without being like completely demolished. But pieces I was absolutely ecstatic to add to my collection. Some like really early MXPX 7 inches that are hard to find, and like just all this crazy stuff. I was geeking out so hard. That was awesome. And I convinced someone to sell me a copy of Further Seems Forever, The Moon Is Down.
Seems Forever.
Yeah, before they had repressed that. That was, again, that's one of my favorite albums of all time.
That's Chris Carrabba, right? Or from Dashboard. Yeah. Actually, just listened to a podcast he was on. You ever listen to that Washed Up Emo podcast?
No.
There's a site called Washed Up Emo. They do reviews and stuff. I've sent emails to them a couple times. They never really get back to me. But the dude does a podcast, and he gets some big names. Like he had the dude from Hotelier. He like met him in their van and like recorded. Nice. He had like Jim Adkins from like Jimmy Eat World just on his podcast, and I was just like, holy shit! Like, he used to be like working for labels and stuff. He's like almost 40, I think, and
nice. That's awesome.
I guess he just has connections. And I was just like, oh, I thought this was just some young kids who started a podcast, and it was like some established guy who's like, hey, I'm doing this podcast. And that was another reason why I was like, fuck, I can do this too. So,
of course, yeah.
I don't really have any other questions. Is there anything you wanted to plug that you're doing, or anything that you want to like tell people if they listen to this?
Oh man, I don't know. I mean, if you're ever looking for design, I am ready to work with anyone. So if you need something, just hit up fleshandbonedesign.com. I love working with bands, record labels, startup businesses, clothing companies. Literally doesn't matter. I mean, I've worked with everything under the sun, and it doesn't matter if it's something where you're just starting and don't have any type of budget, or people that are looking to completely overhaul everything. I mean, I come from a blue collar background and have just always enjoyed working with people that are like-minded and keeping that punk rock DIY ethos alive, and just trying to give back as much as I can. So I'm just always looking to grow that and continue to get well-designed things out the door and into people's hands to use, and just have a good time with it. So everyone just go to fleshandbonedesign.com, and you should shoot me an email, and we should definitely work together. And with the label I used to run, Flesh and Bone Records, that's still going. It just got to be too much for me. Everything with the label was going awesome, but I couldn't balance staying on top of that and also staying on top of the design. So I handed it over to my friend Dylan, who's in the band Loom, and he's still going strong. They just put out their first record release. It was all cassettes before, but he's putting out records now, and things are still going strong. So go over to fleshandbonerecords.com and pick up some releases from Dylan and keep the record label alive as well.
That sounds good, man. So thanks for doing this, man.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
I gotta go to the Mac store and get a new iPhone because my phone's fucked up. But all right, thanks, man.
Yeah, of course, Steve. It was so much fun. I really enjoyed it.